无量天尊. Hi everyone, this is your Zifu right here. It's nice to see you here again. So welcome to our Open Temple session. And previously we talked about the Bagwa Joshi. And today we're going to talk about the post-heaven Bagwa. And that relates to the ground altar, which is the lower deck of our altar. Like you see, we got a table and the top, you have the lower deck, right? Stuff on the bottom. So if you're not like inside the lineage and learning, you might not understand why you need the lower deck. Most of the time in the Chinese culture, some people will buy something to worship, like the ground god or the landlord, whatever you want to call that, the TYD, right? They will worship that kind of thing, and people might kind of mistaken what that is compared to what we're doing on the bottom altar. So this video is going to tell you about what that actually is and so on. So actually, we did that before, like we talked about it before, but this time it's another approach to make it easier for you to understand. So, okay, first of all, in our lineage, the Taoist magic, we have a stamp that represent what we call the Day Wong, which is the ground king, or we can say the ground god. Okay, now what is the Day Wong? Day Wong is kind of like the king of the ground, or whatever you call that. And our stem has the post heaven Bagua design in the and then in the center is the Day Wong. Okay, so that tells you a hint. What is post heaven Bagua? Pre-heaven Bagua we know already from the previous lectures. Pre-heaven is what? Is you're grabbing things from the outside to go inside the system, and that and goes inside, right? So let's do a little recap of the pre-heaven Bagua, the 8 stages. Okay, Keen, Doi, Lei, Zhan, Sun, Ham, Gan, Quan. The 8 stages. Okay, first Keen. It's like you look at the sky. Okay, imagine your altar. Okay, local altar is a person. And look up the sky. Okay, look at the Tao, or the source of the lineage. Okay, number one is uh, like that. What is that? That means you don't have anything. So you're requesting, showing the upper. You're dry. I'm awaiting for your water, like that. So you're dry. Okay. So the first thing is that to connect and show the upper that I have a request. So is to like compare and beam to the right thing, and then finding the right power, right? For finding. And then lay is when the fire is spark, like the feeling is spark, like, oh, I found the right thing. Ding! And then sun is like it output that power from the altar and zoop, and hold on to the power above. So the 4 stages right here is basically to connect and grab the apple that you want, right? And then the next 4 stages is sun ham gan kwan. Sun is when you pull it down. Okay, that's the energy you pull down. Okay, and then second is to put it into the mouth, and then you accumulate in the mouth, and then you and swallow, and it enters. So at the end result is the pre-heaven energies enter the post-heaven altar and stay inside the pot. So basically, the pre-heaven Bagua, the Bagua Joshi job is to get the fruits from the celestial court, the upper, the sky, to the altar. Now, the other one that we're talking about today is the opposite. It's the post heaven. It goes the other way. So what do you have to do? Keen, hum, gan, zhan, sun, lei, kun, dui. At the 8 stages of the post heaven Bagua. Okay, so putting it into very human form. Okay, what it does is it burns the energy. Okay, it burns uh, the resources that you got. So it's like you For example, like the celestial court has money, right? You bring the money in, ding ding. Okay, so you got money into the pocket, into the store. Now that is the first thing you do. Second is how to use that money. That is what the post heaven Bagwa does, and that is also the power of the ground altar. The ground altar is responsible for spending the resources. So the upper altar get resources, the lower altar spends it. So how to spend? Well, very simple. It had to go through the system and do work, right? So whenever your altar has work to do, it's your lower deck that does it. Okay, so that's why I say like people who open the altar. Okay, when you first enter the lineage and you first build up your altar, you will always have your upper deck and you have the frame and pot, everything. Okay, that is not enough. You need the lower deck. Why? Because without the lower deck, you cannot do anything. It's like you can grab a lot of stuff, but let's say okay, you got a computer. Okay, you have a browser. You can watch, do research, Google, YouTube, surfing. You can do all that, but you cannot produce anything because you never bought your like you don't have Microsoft Office, you don't have Excel, you don't have any of those like production uh, application, right? You don't even have a whatever graphic program or something like that. You don't have anything to make things. So the ground altar's job is to do stuff, spend the energy. Okay, so in magic we have a symbol. Okay, the symbol is 火斗, meaning fire on the left side. Okay, and the other side is 斗, meaning a system. Okay, so the faji or the symbol for the pre-heaven Bagua Joshi is rain on top and then 火斗. Okay, 雲頭火斗, and that is basically saying bring down, okay, bring down that system, bring down whatever power. And then the post heaven one is without the rain on top, it's meaning burn the system. Okay, so burning what is inside the system, that tells you a lot. Without the ground altar, it's like you can bring in the cops, but you cannot command them to work. That's a big problem, right? So now you know the ultimate worker power is always at the lower bottom, like the bottom deck. So the lower altar is actually a working force that actually help you to do things. Now, one thing is after working, okay, after the result is done, then the last stage of the post heaven Bagua is like to push things out of the system. Okay, so when things get out of the system, where does it go? It go back to the pre heaven. Okay, so after everything is done, your ground altar is also responsible to report back up to the Tinting, the celestial court. Okay, so if you have anything, you can think about it this way: if you want to send a letter to the government, okay, you go through where? You go through the ground altar. Okay, the ground altar is like a way how you can send things back up. Okay, so the upper deck, the Bagua Joshi on top, help you request. Okay, only request. So it's like government come to you. Okay, that's it. But then the lower deck is different. It's like you to the government. You can like push things back up. Okay, so whenever we have like a form to send to the celestial court and so on, it's like you're kind of like sending a letter. Okay, when you send a letter, you need that day long stamp to make it go up. And a lot of things we use this power. Whenever things need to connect back to the celestial court, basically you do need the day long stamp. Okay, now that's why it's called the ground king, because it's like the biggest power that actually deals with the ground and controls what get out of the ground. Okay, and also Like ground means the system, like the whole altar is one ground of a system. Okay, so basically, you see, it's not like what normal people feel like. Oh, there's like a landlord, just keep my home safe. It's not just that simple. Do we have a landlord? Yes, we do have a landlord. Okay, so that ground altar consists of the landlord and it connects to the ground god. So the thing is simple, okay? The landlord is the local one, okay? The landlord always stays there. It's locally there for you, okay? The ground god is not there. The ground god is like you can connect to it and channel to it, but it's not yours, and it's definitely not at your location, okay? So that's the difference. So where is the ground god then? The ground god, the Taoist, okay, is actually in the pre-heaven in the lineage source, like right there. Okay, so it's high above. You cannot like reach it by talking to it in front of the altar at your local area. So your landlord is a representative of the ground god. So when you have anything you want to report to the ground god, to the day you talk to the landlord, and it goes like through that department and go back up. So that's what happened. And do everyone, like, can everyone just buy like those little frame and then burn incense and there goes the landlord? Of course not. Okay. What is a landlord? A landlord, like put it simple, is the strongest spiritual being in your location. Okay, so basically, it's kind of like a ghost king. It's one of the largest, strongest spiritual being at your location, and it's definitely not just anyone. Okay, now if you don't have like magic and all that stuff, what you're gonna get is like, oh, because you put altar right here, you burn incense, you're kind of like saying, okay, there's food. You guys out there fight and see whoever win, then you're the strongest and you can be the owner of this place. And that's what happened. And so everyone fight for that, and later on the strongest ones stay and they become the landlord for you. Now for us it's not the same. The professional version is not like that. It's like we have a cultivated power in the lineage. So that's the ground god power. The ground god split a clone of itself to your location to represent the ground god. And that is the landlord that we have. It's for sure stronger than any spiritual being on your location. And it's definitely much safer because it's something that is cultivated by the people before you. And it's like a much stronger cultivated kind of power, and it's not going to betray you, or it's not going to like emotional wreck or something. Like I have heard people like build that ground altar, and like one day they decided to not worship, and the thing just flip out and make them suicide, and that can happen. So if you DIY, do it yourself, one of these altar, there is a huge risk right there. And I have heard many cases where people do these altar and they die because of these things revenging or flipping out. So if you don't have the power to control what you're building, you will be eaten up by it eventually. So that's why it's so important to learn the magic the real way. When you're inside a lineage, you learn the real way. It's not going to have that kind of danger and risk. Anyway, we'll see you tomorrow. So, thanks for watching. 福生無量大天尊。